Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. Here's something that happened this year that almost nobody said out loud. Over about 10 weeks this spring and summer, nearly every major AI lab quietly turned itself into a consulting firm. Anthropic and Blackstone put $1.5 billion into a venture called Ode to embed engineers directly inside companies. Amazon stood up its own group for $1 billion. Microsoft went biggest of all, $2.5 billion and 6,000 people, in a new company built to sit inside your business and make the AI actually work. OpenAI is hiring for the very same role and bought a consulting firm to do it faster. Now think about what that means. The most valuable software companies in history, the ones that have spent 3 years telling you their models are magic and it all just works, spent this summer hiring armies of human beings to go make it work. The tell could not be louder. The model was never the hard part. The integration is the hard part, and they are now selling you the integration. In the next few minutes, I want to give you the version of this you can actually use because I do this for a living. What these labs figured out, why the hard part is not technical, and the operating model I would build inside your own company to capture it instead of renting it back from them forever. Let me start with the role they are all hiring for because the name matters. It is called a forward deployed engineer. The term comes from Palantir, which a decade ago sent its engineers to sit physically inside defense and intelligence agencies and build software on site. In the room, inside the client's walls, the whole idea is that the engineer does not write you a report. The engineer ships working code right next to the people who have the actual problem. And the reason every AI lab is now copying that model word for word is that they have learned expensively what MIT found in a study last year. 95% of corporate AI projects deliver no measurable return, and the reason is almost never the model. MIT called it a learning gap. The technology works. The organization has not learned how to use it. Eddie Siegel, who runs the Anthropic and Blackstone venture, said it about as plainly as anyone can. Choosing the model, he said, is not where the majority of the calories are spent. It is one ingredient. It is like picking which programming language to write in. Nobody defines a business transformation by whether you chose Python or Java. So if the hard part is not the model and it is not really technical, what is it? It is education. It is getting your own people up to speed. And it is organizing them the right way. And here is the single most important thing I have learned doing this across a lot of companies. The person who should lead this is not your head of IT. It is your business experts, the people who actually know how the work works. Let me be precise, because this is where most companies get it exactly backwards. The person who knows where the bodies are buried in your billing process, who understands why a certain kind of customer quietly churns, who has run your supply chain for 15 years, that person is now the most important builder in your company. Not because they can code, because they know what is worth building. Gartner has a name for the teams that win with this. They call them fusion teams, and their research is blunt about it. When you let IT lead these teams, you lose the business context that made them worth doing in the first place. Business sets the agenda, technology serves it. And this shift has already happened whether you organized for it or not. More than 40% of the people building tools inside companies today already sit outside the IT department. Most leaders just have not caught up to their own org chart. So here is the operating model I would build. 2 roles. The first role is your subject matter experts, your domain people, call them your artisans. Their job is to build the things they wish existed. And they actually can now because the tools finally let a non-programmer build real software. Someone on your finance team can describe the application they want in plain English to a tool like Lovable or Replit and get a working app back. Lovable crossed roughly $500 million in revenue this year doing exactly that. For people who do not write a line of code, your expert does not need to become an engineer. They need to become a builder, which is a different and much older thing. The second role is your technical people, and this is the new job of IT. They become your internal forward deployed engineers. They do not own the ideas, they own the plumbing. They set the guardrails so an artisan cannot accidentally do any damage. They manage the credentials and the secrets so the little agent running on a Mac Mini in the corner of the office has exactly the access it needs and not one bit more. They handle the deployment, the connections into your real systems, the security review. They are the pit crew, and the structure that works is small. One technical person supporting a handful of artisans. A pod. One engineer, 5 or 6 domain experts, building and shipping together. IT stops being the department of no and becomes the team that makes yes safe. Now, I have to tell you the hard truth about this because it is the part people do not want to hear. This is not a project with an end date. It is not the jump from typewriters to computers where you buy the machines once and you are finished. This is a new operating system for your company and it updates constantly. One industry tracker has the frontier models now shipping roughly every 7 weeks, down from every 6 months just 2 years ago. And it is not only the models, the connectors change, the capabilities change. Something becomes possible in August that was science fiction in June, which means the clever little app your team built 3 months ago may need to be thrown away and rebuilt because a new capability just made it obsolete. That sounds exhausting. It is actually freeing, but only if you build the right way. Lightweight, almost disposable tools your artisans can rebuild in an afternoon, not giant monuments your IT department spends a year defending. You have to keep leaning in. Every time a genuine new capability ships, you go back and reassess what you built. And that brings me to the last point, which is the most important one and the one I feel most strongly about. As you do all of this, you are creating something valuable, and you need to be very clear-eyed about who ends up owning it. The raw data in your company, the PDFs and the spreadsheets and the databases, that was always worth something. But the truly valuable asset you are about to create sits one layer above that. It is the intelligence you build on top of the data, the company brain, the system that knows how your business actually connects, that maps what really causes what, that holds the hard-won logic of how you win. That is the crown jewel. That is your real intellectual property. So here is the trap. If you do all of this inside one vendor's walled garden, letting their AI run your whole operation inside their tool, you are handing them that crown jewel to build instead of building it yourself. And here's the sharp part, the part I want you to sit with. Even if that vendor never touches your raw data, even on an enterprise plan where they swear up and down they do not train on your numbers, they are still watching how the work gets done. Satya Nadella, of all people, gave this a name this month. He calls it intelligence exhaust. Every time your team corrects the AI, every time you teach it what good looks like, that lesson quietly flows to whoever owns the learning. And by default, that is not you. It is the vendor. They are not stealing your data. They are learning what to do with data like yours, the logic, the connections, the map. And then they sell that smarter product to everyone, including the competitor down the street who buys the very same subscription you do. This is not paranoia. It is the business model, and it is right there in the fine print. Slack trained its models on customer workspaces by default until people noticed and pushed back. Zoom tried to claim the right to train on your meetings. Salesforce and HubSpot both ship today with train on your data quietly switched on unless you go hunting for the toggle. There is even an antitrust fight in court right now over a vendor allegedly blocking a customer from getting at its own data once AI made that data valuable. The direction is unmistakable. Your logic is the product they most want. So build the brain yourself. Rent the tools, absolutely. Use the frontier models. Use Lovable. Use whatever ships next month and makes today's tools look quaint. But the intelligence layer, the actual map of how your business works, keep that inside your walls, owned by your people, compounding for you. Buy the commodity, own the crown jewel. Here is the whole thing in one line. The AI labs just showed you with billions of dollars that the value was never really the model. It is the integration, and the integration is really just your people, organized well, learning continuously, quietly, building your company a brain that belongs to you. Rent the intelligence when it makes sense, but own what you learn. That is the difference between a company that gets faster every single quarter and one that spends the next decade paying rent on its own knowledge. That is the YPO Tech Network AI Brief for Friday, July 24th. I'm Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I'll be back Monday with more. Until then, stay sharp.